Black men, black men, black men. I hate to bust your bubble, and I hate to break your delusion, but these women overseas don't want y'all. They want the Chris Browns. They want the Trey Songz. They want the black men that have money. Let me tell you what y'all do. Y'all pretend to be executives. You pretend like you have money. And so because they only see the majority of black folks on camera, y'all go over there with these fake Louis Vuitton bags and these Jordans and your US dollars, and you go over there and you act like you have some money.
Okay, so in response to this woman who came up with this ridiculous criticism of Passport Bros. First of all, I'd like to point out that in my community chat, pretty much all this summer, I've been posting about Passport Bros, SYSBM, which means Save Yourself Blackmail. And I've been explaining to you how more and more black men are getting their passports and they are traveling. They are seeing the best of the rest of the world. They are meeting women overseas. They are marrying them in many cases. They are going to places they never would have gone. In fact, they go to countries I never would go to. Cartagena, Colombia, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And here's the thing, because of the technology now, because we all have 4K iPhones, we're able to not only, with just our phones, we're able to make live video feeds as if we were journalists. And we're able to show everybody back home what's happening over there. We're able to make these huge videos and put them on YouTube. I've made many of them. I've made over 30 hours worth of vacation videos. Seychelles, Maldives, and I'm going to Bora Bora, and I plan on making a big one there. I'm just waiting to find out about COVID restrictions and flights to Bora Bora. But the point is, thanks to new technology, we have sparked interest in more and more men, not just black men, but white men, even Hispanic and Asian men who watch YouTube regularly. We've sparked more interest into travel. I would also say that a lot of interest in travel has been sparked by Instagram and has been sparked by Facebook videos and specifically TikTok, where people are flying and they're showing off how great these seats are, these business class seats. Like in this video right here, this is a snippet of the video I took doing business class, Emirates, A380, flying to Dubai and then flying to Maldives. Now, for most people, to go to some place like Seychelles, Africa, or to go to a place like Maldives, or to go to a place like Bora Bora, these are dream vacations. For me, this is just a summer. I can basically, but besides the fact that as a recreational pilot, if I want to, I could go borrow a plane and literally fly somewhere, because you can rent planes from my flying club if you want. But on top of that, I can literally point anywhere on the globe and go there. I've lived in China. I've lived in South Korea. I've lived in the Philippines. I've lived in Thailand. I've vacationed in Seychelles, Africa. But you get the point. So first of all, let me clarify a couple of things, because here's the problem. One thing I've noticed about these conversations, unless it's the Passport Bro or unless it's SYSBM, a dude, unless it's them making the video and making their case by just showing you what they're experiencing, which is one of the reasons why I'm going to give you links to some of the Passport Bros that I personally know and like No Reservations, Austin Holloman. What I've noticed is these conversations tend to be dominated by either black women, single white females, single black females, single moms of various races, or on the male side, you get these dudes who are called dating coaches. I refer to them as dating roaches. As you know, that I like to poke fun at the crypto bros and the people who are fake crypto gurus who are always telling you about how they claim, oh, you're going to make all this money. You never make any money. You give them your money for those stupid programs and their fake ass books. Understand something. You've got dating roaches who, first of all, they hide their lives because even if they do have women, their women tend to be either single moms that they married, or they tend to be older, or they tend not to be at the top end of women. Like they tend to not be hot. So the reality is a lot of you are being lied to. Now, when this woman says that, oh, yeah, well, oh, you only get these women who are because they think you're rich and you've lied to them and everything, let me dispel a little bit of that right now, because I'm actually going to talk about a couple of things. Right here, what you see is on one of these YouTube channels, a guy gave a breakdown of the amount of money that the average person in a country makes. Now, this country specifically is the Philippines. I'm going to talk about this very quickly. The average person in the Philippines makes about 10,000 US dollars a year. 10,000. Now, here you got somebody like me who makes over 200,000. Now, the thing about it is, obviously, the income is vastly asymmetrical. But understand something. When you have black men in the military, specifically the military, because they travel a lot, they go to Germany, they meet women in Germany, they go to the Philippines, they go to naval bases, they go to South Korea, they go to Japan. But when you have black men, and we're specifically focused on black men because I'm a black man, so I can talk about me. But anyway, they make enough money to the point where whatever they make, their salary is vastly asymmetrical to whatever the woman is making in her country. As you can see, a start-out Filipina might make about $220 a month, and that's considered poor. To be rich, she'd have to be making over $4,000 a month. So $4,000 a month, to us, that's less than somebody who's making $100,000 a year. They're not looking for Chris Brown. They know they ain't getting no Michael Jordan coming there. They know they ain't getting Kobe Bryant. It's not like you're Vanessa Lane Bryant, and just because somebody takes pictures of your husband, you're going to get $16 million or whatever it is. That's not what these women are looking for. First of all, a lot of these women are looking for marriage. So when they do meet these guys, they treat them really well. The guys take them on dates. Dating there is really cheap. A meal might cost $10 for 3 people. So money is not exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for the same stability any woman's looking for. I could have filled this video with simply a read over of statistics, but I decided to use video footage right here being in South Korea. The last one was Maldives. So the simple fact of the matter is, first of all, I think it's, I'm trying to think of a better word than wrong, but I really think what we actually call it when you have these men who are online, who are hating on men who get passports and go overseas and get wives. Well, we have a very simple term for that. It's called dick policing. Now, I don't dick police other men. As far as I'm concerned, whatever you do with your dick, that's your choice. Furthermore, I don't police other men's wallets. I don't live in other men's wallets. Whatever they choose to do with their money, that's their choice. I probably, in many cases, won't make the same decision, but that's their choice because they're grown men. But see, the thing about it is that's the logical stance to take. What you're really dealing with is you're dealing with women who are not only dick policing, but they're also wallet policing. And they are angrier and angrier and angrier that men have the power to do this. Because, see, we've seen a couple of videos lately of what happens when women go overseas. Specifically, when black women go overseas. It's usually to the Caribbean, or it'll be to Europe, and they're basically going over there for their own form of sex tourism, just like this huge woman right here who's got her back arched up to the moon, and this dude right here who's dancing around because he's never seen that much meat. Well, this is what the black women do when they go overseas. But one thing I've noticed is they're always going, but without men. And that's partially because there's a growing trend where more and more black men are not married. And because more and more black men aren't married, that trend continues, and black women are even more likely to not be married than they normally would be. So the reality is that these black women are getting their passports and they're traveling, and you're not hearing about their hot girl summers, but they find it necessary to police regular men, specifically black men, who are going overseas, and in many cases, not really there for just sex tourism. They're actually there because they're trying to meet women overseas. Now, there's lots and lots of excuses, and there's lots and lots of things you could throw at that. Because typically the common excuse is, oh yeah, well you hate your mama, or you don't like your own people, blah blah blah. But I have made videos already where I've been talking about the word anomie. Enemy is a word that you've probably never heard before, because a lot of us aren't really learning much in these schools that we're taking out these huge loans for. But basically what enemy is it's a social condition that occurs when a society's previously common norms and values disappear or disintegrate, i.e. the nuclear family, our attachment as black people to the church. Typically, this causes people to feel a lack of belonging and that they are disconnected from their society. And this concept originated from Emil Durkheim. Now, I've pointed out enemy before because I like to teach you new words you can use. I personally believe that black men are partially in a state of enemy. Considering this country is dominated by white men, white feminists as number two, and then after that, whatever dominant immigrant group is here, I personally believe, and I can't prove it, and I'm not going to try, but I personally believe that black men are experiencing enemy. I believe that they do not feel like they are a complete part of this system, and that they have decided that they are going to, what's that word? Divest themselves from the system. Investment is when you're putting your money in and you're attempting to grow your investment. But divesting is when you take yourself and your money out. Basically, they're removing themselves from the equation. If black men have gotten to the point where they think that the culture is so corrosive and so rotten and so toxic that they believe that black women have been infected by it and they don't want any part of it, they just leave. What was that in that video game movie, War Games, that they said? They said the only way to win is not to play. Well, divesting is a way that black men can take themselves out of the game and not play. So what are they doing in order to meet their biological needs? Well, they're going overseas after they've gotten their passport. Some of them are interested in sex tourism, but I will not conflate sex tourism with the men who are genuinely going over there to meet wives. There are many different countries and there are many different reasons to go. I feel that black men are suffering enemy. I also believe that in general, most American men, but I'm specifically focusing on black men, I believe they are also suffering from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 7 stages of grief. Now, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came up with 5 stages of grief. She was studying the effect of death on people and the grieving process, but it's been expanded to make it 7 stages. 5 is good, 7's okay, whatever. But the initial issue is shock because you realize something's wrong. You deny that there's something wrong because you're in a state of denial. Then after the denial fades, you get into an angry stage because things aren't going your way. You're very upset. You're very angry. Some of these men know how to deal with their anger. A lot of them don't. I want you to notice the average age of your typical mass murderer in the news is getting younger and younger and younger. When I saw Columbine when I was younger, when I was a kid, Jonesboro, Arkansas, one that they don't really talk about much, was right after that, where you had these kids sitting outside pulling a fire alarm and they were shooting at people as they were coming out of the school. The average age of these mass murders is getting younger and younger. But what you also see happening simultaneously is you see more and more males basically giving up on everything. The army, the military is complaining that they can't even get these kids to enlist to be in the armed forces. In fact, one of them came out and said he didn't want Biden to cancel student loans because he was afraid it was going to hurt recruitment efforts. On top of that, you've got more and more young males, various races and ages, not wanting to enroll in college, not wanting to even finish high school. When men are suffering a stage of grief and a stage of enemy, they divest themselves. The only way to win is not to play. So what they do is they start bargaining. They try to figure out a way to get the women to commit, but they don't. So they go into a state of depression. And then what ends up happening when a man's in a state of depression, he'll do just about anything. When a man's in a state of depression, he'll start ordering stuff off of eBay that's creepy.
Oh my God. And it take batteries?
Yeah, that's
Yes,
right. Just like
October
women have their toys,
2024.
men have their toys too. eBay is
Expedite
filled
shipping
with
for
silicone wives, plastic
Hey,
toys,
look,
plastic objects, and these guys are basically so lonely and so depressed that they will grab their credit card and they will start spending money.
I won't be calling
So
you no more.
the reality is a lot of them
Oh, no, I
know
got
that
me
this
some
is
money.
weird and they don't want to do this to themselves. So what do they
be
do?
cool.
Well, the smart thing to do is you spend the almost $200 and you get your passport. Because you get your passport, you go overseas, you meet somebody, and when you meet somebody, you're like, yeah,
October
you know,
2024.
you seem to be a pretty
Yeah.
nice person. You and I could get married. But what these men aren't going to do is they're not just going to lay around and be depressed forever. So at the end of this depression, eventually they're going to reach the acceptance phase. They're going to realize that things aren't going to get any better. They're going to basically understand that if they want better for themselves, they're not going to get it here, because our culture has degraded to a point that's absolutely unbelievable. The women have become more masculine. They're fighting with the men. Or even if they're not fighting with the men, they're busy competing with the men. And while women think, oh yeah, well, I can go get my own bag. I can do what I want. I can do whatever I want. I'm an independent woman. They sing the Beyonce song. All the ladies in Mercedes, throw your hands up in the air. All the ladies getting money, throw your hands up in there. Charlie, how your angels get down like that? Tell me how your angels get down like that. I can't sing the song. I can't sing at all. I'm not a good singer. I never professed to be. But the point is, Beyonce's married. Are you? But Beyonce told you all you got to do is go out there, be an independent woman, getting your money. Here's the thing, though. One thing I've noticed, and you probably, if you're a woman and you saw the movie Devil Wears Prada, even these rich women are getting divorced because the men's main complaint is, oh, you're not there for me. You're not there emotionally for me, which is basically a code word for I'm not getting enough sex from you. And this is your wife you're talking about. So the reality is, a woman who's working a 9-to-5 job can't be home to take care of the house. See, and here's something else. Let me throw something scientific at you. Men and women of this species, humans, are hunter-gatherers. Men go out and hunt the food, and they bring it home, and the woman is cooking the food. And she's also keeping up the house. And in keeping up the house, she's got the kids there, and the kids are getting breastfed, and this, that, and the other. And I know the first thing you're going to say, yeah, well, you just want me to be barefoot and pregnant. But understand something. That's how we've evolved. This technology shit is new. Humans have existed for about 2 million years. Earth has been around 4.5, 4.6 billion years. We've only been around for 2 million years. We've evolved to be hunter-gatherers. There's a very simple biological reason for that. It's because, number one, men don't get pregnant. I don't give a shit what you hear on TLC or this bullshit that you hear on, where you hear them trying to twist these kids' minds and change their belief of words, basic fucking words. Bottom line is, men do not get pregnant. I don't care what you see on television. Men do not get pregnant. Men do not have vaginas. Men do not have uteruses. Men do not get pregnant. Biologically, women get pregnant. Men are evolved to be out there hunting and killing animals and bringing them home for food. The women are evolved to be home suckling children and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying that somebody got to be barefoot and pregnant. What I'm just saying is childbearing ages is a very relatively short window. Because if you really think about it, the childbearing age. Now, I'm watching Game of Thrones on TV right now. In Game of Thrones, even though this is fictional, during this time of medieval times or whatever, it was like a woman's childbearing age was like 15, 16, 17, 18, up until like 20s, 30s or whatever. But the reality was, it was like they were expected to start having children immediately, partially because they had such high mortality rates. A lot of the children died. Like, I'm watching Game of Thrones right now, and even in this episode, this House of the Dragon, the queen dies in this episode during childbirth because, see, back then, cesarean sections, those things were brutal. So if a child breached, it was like you're basically dead, basically, because you're going to get cut open and then the infection's going to get you. So, yeah, the mortality rate was so high that they had to have children earlier. Now, yes, technology has progressed. Medicine has progressed. I'm not saying that somebody got to be home taking care of kids and then just be a housewife, which is crazy because a lot of these women who get on these internets and they're talking about what they want out of a man, a lot of them specifically say, yeah, I want to be a housewife and I want a man who makes like $300,000 or whatever it is, $150,000, and I just want to be a housewife. A lot of them are saying that. So I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm just saying once the kids get of age where they no longer have to be suckled and no longer have to be taken care of at home, that's when you go out and you get a job. But you always got to remember, and in sociology, they call it a career track and they call it a mommy track. If you sacrifice your mommy track for the career track, then chances are you're going to end up like all of these women who are hitting their 30s, single, unmarried, childless. Hitting their 40s, single, unmarried, childless, living at home with their parents. Oh, I know plenty of them. I know women 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45 who are still carting their mama around. I'm not going to name names. I can think about 5 of them carting their mama around, living in daddy's attic or living in mommy's house. They get what kind of house? You know what we call these houses where they're attached? 2-family houses attached? They call it a mother-daughter house. That's actually the term. We call mother-daughter houses here in New York City. These women are still living right with mommy and daddy, unmarried, childless, and aging. And all I ask is that what you want for yourself? Because while you're busy answering my question, these men are out here getting passports. And let me expand on this. I'm not just talking about black men. I'm talking about white men too. White men are just as disgusted with liberal feminism as black men are. So what are they doing? These guys are going to Philippines, Thailand, Singapore. If they could get to North Korea, believe me, Kim Jong-un would run out of women. If these white men could get to North Korea, Pyongyang right now, Kim Jong-un would be out of women over there. But we can't get in and out of there. So where else are they going? Dominican Republic, Brazil. Is that how you say it? Brazil. Cartagena, Colombia. They go into parts of the world I would never go to because first of all, I used to watch all these violent videos and shit coming out of Brazil, and I've seen murders and shit that I probably have PTSD because I've seen so much murder from these videos. Bestgore.com, and they no longer exist. But Brazil, Colombia, what is it? Peru, all these, and I wanted to go to Argentina. I wasn't looking for women. I just wanted to go there for vacation, and I just wanted to see what it looked like. Turns out, right now, that place is going crazy over. They got inflation. Supposedly you got some issue with white supremacy or something. They got skinheads or something, and then on top of that, they got protests and fighting in the street and everything. So the reality is, these men are getting their passports. Now, some of these dudes are not worried about going down to these places. Any place where the United States Department says that it's like a war zone, I'm not going. So I'm just looking at some of these dudes. They're going to Rio de Janeiro. I heard that place is violent as hell. But I'm seeing these dudes like no reservations. He's posting videos on the beach. Every single day he's posting videos on the beach, and everybody looks happy. It's like, I don't see any shootings, so everybody looks like they're doing a good time. See, even in this video you're watching now, this is me in South Korea. I was all over South Korea. I was on Nami Island, and everybody's peaceful and quiet. Nothing's happening. 50 or 60 miles away, you got Kim Jong-un pointing missiles at you. But for the most part, as long as he don't do nothing, there won't be nothing. So it was going fine. So here I am with my Chinese girlfriend, and we having a good time and everything, and we on Nami Island. So why are these men getting these passports? Well, it's because, to tell you the God's honest truth, and I'll just go back to it real quickly because I don't want to belabor this point. I believe that not just black men, but I believe white men and black men are experiencing anomie. There's more than enough evidence to support it. And I also believe that they are grieving. I believe that they are in a state of grief. They're in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief. Now, you can choose to ignore what I'm saying. That's up to you. I don't have any. I'm not sitting here like Kevin Samuels or anybody else who does this dating roach bullshit. I'm not reading all these statistics. I'm not sitting here going back because I actually looked at some statistics and I was like, should I put that in my video? I was like, nah, I ain't going to do that. I'm just going to make a video where I just show travel because I've made a bunch of travel videos. And the thing about it is, it's like you could choose to ignore it, but you going to be the one who's single, not me. And if you do manage to get a dude, it's like God help you, if you're lucky. But most of you ain't. Because the numbers don't lie. They're saying more and more and more men in general are unmarried, single, and many of them are reaching for that United States Department passport application, and they getting their passports. If you watch my community chat, I've posted no less than 10 black men who've married Asian women. Now, white men always typically are marrying Asian women. Even my dentist got a Filipino wife. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's weird. Now, he's a Jewish dentist. And I was like, gee, I'm really surprised. And I talked to him about this. I was like, man, I'm surprised you didn't marry a Jewish woman. He was like, no, I didn't want to. And as soon as he said that, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to pry any further because I already know what you're saying. You're basically saying this feminism shit has fucked up things so much that you just don't want no part of it. Men are divesting. They're divesting. I am not Kevin Samuels. I am not going to have you calling me and whining and shit about why you can't get married. I don't want to hear it. All I'm saying is men are getting their passports. Good for them. And then let's get away from the women for a second. I like traveling. I love business class. You know why I like business class? Because I can take that business class ticket, I can give it to my CPA, and I can write off my trip as a business expense, believe it or not. YouTube gives me a 1099. I can file self-employment under that and get business tax deductions to travel as a journalist. I love every trip I post, and now I got a better phone and everything. I'm posting these business, like the last trip, Philippines business class. I went to Thailand business class. I love it. I'm addicted to it at this point. I'm addicted to it. So I'm sitting there at 30,000 feet sipping wine and champagne and cheese boards and fresh fruit and everything. We flying 650 miles an hour at 35,000 feet. I'm addicted to that. Addicted. The business class lounges, just like I showed you in this video earlier. Got the business class shower. Look at this. Look at this video right here. Me and this Chinese girl are in Nami Island, South Korea, and we at the Korean barbecue grill eating that Korean barbecue. This has nothing to do with sex tourism. I'm enjoying. We getting the hot pot. Got the hot pot soup. You got all this fresh meat and everything, and you know it's fresh because it wasn't made here in America where you got growth hormones and shit. And we were having a good damn time. And let me tell you something. Dating over there, if you want to date, dating is cheap. It's like you can have a great date. You can have a nice night on the town. It's going to cost you like $20 or $30 depending upon where you are. Now, Europe is a little messed up right now because the euro is below the dollar, which actually is good for us. The only thing about it is Europe is going to freeze their asses off this winter because they decided to fuck with Vladimir Putin and they didn't have a backup plan. So when they put them sanctions on Vladimir Putin, like they had no backup plan. So this winter, a lot of Europeans are in trouble, which that's not really too much of a problem because if you're an American man and you want like a Ukrainian wife, like that one who was on 90 Day Fiance, I think her name was Natasha, and she was dating a guy, like there was this white guy from Kentucky or something. Yeah, well, there's plenty of them, and they're gonna be anxiously looking for American men. So if that's what you want, that's what you can get. So all I'm saying, this is kind of like buying stock. It's like you got to be prepared for the sales. So when the market crashes or there's a war or something, you got to be prepared for the sales. Bottom line is, men are getting their passports. We're not gonna stay here. Like me personally, I like talking about this because I think it's hilarious to watch the Passport Brothers destroying these dating roaches and destroying these women who are coming on trying to shame, blame, and explain to them why they shouldn't be getting their passports. I'm addicted to it. I love it. When I make my video in Bora Bora, when I'm on that island, and I got the young girls serving me the buko juice, and I'm sitting there in the waist deep in the beach sand, and it's crystal clear water with the stingrays and the sharks literally swim up to you and say hi, and then they just go back into that crystal clear water. Let me tell you something. I'm addicted to it. So I'm addicted to this. I could do this all day. I could talk about this all year. I've gone on 4 dream vacations already, but that's the benefit of making a lot of money. But when these women up there saying, "Oh yeah, well they only want you because you make you lying and you saying that you Chris Brown and you lying, you saying you Michael Jordan, you got Michael Jordan money," I'm like, you don't need that kind of money to travel. Let me tell you something. If you're a man, you get your passport right now, you hear the sound of my voice. You know how much these trips cost? First of all, if you're not very tall, let's say you're under 6 feet tall. Now, I'm 6'6". I'm flying business class. But if you're a regular sized dude, it's only going to cost you like $1,000 round trip to go to most of these countries, especially Thailand. Any country that has very high volume, like Thailand, Japan, Korea, you can get a ticket, especially if you wait for Black Friday. If you wait for November 25th, you can get a ticket for about $1,000 round trip. If you want to go to Dubai, it's usually like $1,000 round trip. If you want to go to, I don't know, like just about anywhere, it's about $1,000 round trip. Now, if you go to one of these countries that requires 2 flights, chances are it might be at most about $1,500 round trip. $1,500, you can get that. If you're a man in America and you're making about $50,000, maybe up to about $80,000. Let's say you're making like between $50,000 and $80,000. Not only can you get your passport for like $200, you can get your round trip ticket. Most of these other countries, the hotels are dirt cheap. The resorts are not very expensive, but usually it's the hotels that are dirt cheap. The condos are the place to be because usually you can get a condo. All you have to do is make sure you got an air conditioner, make sure you got a pool, and you can go to these countries and the condo might cost you $500 a whole month. But when these people, like when I hear these liars and these angry, jealous YouTubers, jealous, not just the women, the men too. When I hear them saying this bullshit about you ain't got no money, first of all, it ain't just money you got to have time. Because when you take one of these flights, you're talking about maybe a turnaround time of about 24 hours. So no, any man who's making that kind of money between 50 and 80, especially if you make 100,000, you're good. But if you're making up to about $100,000, between $50 and $100,000, and let's say you've got some decent vacation time, let's say you've got a month or two, oh man, you're golden. You can easily go over to another country. You can meet somebody nice. And if you want to get married, you can get married. Now, the K-1 visa process, which you see on these shows like 90 Day Fiancé, the K-1 visa process, that's going to take you a little bit of time because right now, the especially post-COVID, everything's so screwed up that the K-1 visa process may take you a year. At most, it might take you 2 years. But if you're an expatriate and you live in another country, that'll make things a lot easier on the relationship. I personally don't endorse the relationships where she lives over there, you live here, because I mean, cheating is almost inevitable. Either she's going to cheat on you or you're going to cheat on her because maybe she gets tired of waiting or maybe you get tired of waiting. If you're an expatriate and you're living over there and you're working for a company that has you in one of those countries, oh, you're golden. Because you're with her right there, boots on the ground, you're there. No problem. You could marry her over there, cost you for nothing. Some of these countries, like let's say the Philippines, a whole wedding might cost you less than about $2,000-$3,000, maybe $2,000, maybe. And that's a nice wedding. I don't know if you're going to get your parents to come over and be with you, but you can have a nice wedding for like less than $2,000 because the average person only makes $10,000 a year. So what I'm saying is, that the K-1 visa process might take you about a year, might take you 2 years. I don't know if they'll ever speed things up. But if you're married, you can just do the spousal adjustment visa, and that's even shorter. And then you and your wife, your brand new lovely wife, can immigrate to the United States of America. Or if you're lucky enough to be working and get an American wage in that country, you could stay over there and you could live right with her over there. And you're getting paid. And you're living the life of luxury while doing your job, you know? So, yeah, that's the only reason why I had to make this video, because I just had to dispel some of these disgusting rumors. And I just want you to, whenever you hear these people criticizing or talking about the passport bros, all you need to do is look at that person. Because chances are it's some grandma looking old, like dried up wino, or if it's a guy, it's one of these passport roaches who pretends that they getting all these women, pretends that they got all this game, and they're nothing more than passport roaches. Not passport coaches, not dating coaches. These are dating roaches. That's what they are. I want you to get that in your mind. These people are not dating coaches. They're dating roaches. I've heard that if you say something 3 times in a row, it helps to cement it in your mind. These people are not dating coaches. These people are dating roaches. I want you to remember that. So that's all I'm saying. Just look at the people who are doing all the criticism and then ask yourself, why are you criticizing a man who works a legitimate job, makes his money, and decides to go overseas and find a wife? Why? In fact, whether he finds a wife or not, why are you criticizing what another man does with his money? Ask yourself that. When you see these dating roaches, ask yourself, why are you criticizing a man who works a legitimate job, makes his money, and goes overseas? That's the question you need to ask yourself from now on. And especially if it's one of these old women especially if it's one of these old women or these single moms. Ask yourself, what right do you have to criticize a free man in America who decides to take his passport and his money and go overseas? And then I want you to tell that person, number one, you don't have control over his reproductive freedom, and you don't have control over his wallet. You don't have control over his reproductive freedom, and you don't have control of his wallet. You don't have control of his reproductive freedom, and you don't have control of his wallet. And that's it. That's how you fight. That's how you deal with them. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was educational. I hope you learned a little bit about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and I also hope you learned a little bit about Enemy. And I also hope you learned a little bit about why more and more males have chosen to divest. They're disgusted with the attitudes. They're disgusted with liberal media trying to convince you that men are stupid and they can't get anything done. Even the newest Predator movie. I actually like the movie Prey, but they convinced you that all of the men are incompetent and stupid, and yet this little 100-pound girl is the one, Pocahontas, is the one who magically beats the Predator, despite the fact that 10 minutes earlier, he's bench pressing grizzly bears. I just want you to think about that. We live in a society right now that is devaluing men, and you're wondering why the men are divesting. Why are the men depressed? Why are the men's suicide rates so high? Why are the men committing so many crimes? You want to know why they're doing these things. You're watching the news tell you that they're doing these things, and you don't understand why. I'm telling you why. The men are in a state of anomie, and the men are in a state of grief. But I've got a solution, and I've got a recommendation, men. Save yourselves. Get your passports.
This is to all of the damn single black men out there that keep hollering about they going out of the country to get them a wife. Y'all baby mama say, y'all better sit y'all ragged asses down because you owe child support. And they don't let y'all get no passports. So it don't look like y'all going nowhere. But so you might want to sit down and be content and do right and find you a black girl right here in this great United States because they ain't letting y'all asses go nowhere.